Hello, this is Ron and Hugh, and welcome to Politically Challenged. We are back and better than ever. Today we're going to talk about role models and what they mean in society.
Yeah, and I thought we could just talk about, we should talk about our role models growing up.
Okay then, Ron, you go first. Who was your role model?
Well, probably not one in reality, but did you ever watch that TV show Hercules, the animated cartoon?
Yes.
Icarus's dad was an inventor, and that's my role model. And then Wayne Selinsky in the TV show, not the movie, but Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show. Basically, science. I was always interested in science. So it's fiction. In real life, I mean, like, my dad was around, but he wasn't like. I mean, I love my dad, but it's not someone. But I haven't really modeled my life around him, so I wouldn't say he's a role model. So what about you? Who was your role model-ish growing up? Anyway.
I had two. One was my mom.
Because. You want to be like your mom?
Well, she's cool. She raised me by herself. We had a hard time growing up. She did her best. We weren't rich, to say the least. We lived in a council flat. She raised me and did everything, made sure that I was safe and well fed with a roof over my head, so she's cool. And then the other one was Charlie Harper, the fictionalized version of Charlie Sheen from 2.5 Men.
Wow, from one end to the other, damn.
It explains my many different facets of a personality. Basically, Charlie Harper, growing up, I was an only child with no musical talent and no game. And, when it came to the ladies. And this was a guy with lots of money. He could play the piano. He could get any girl he wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, he can get any girl he wanted. And, I was interested. I was like, I wish I was that guy. And then he looked way cooler from a child's perspective than his younger brother, who had been twice divorced, and he had dated other girls too, but he always seemed to be less confident, more whiny, more passive, more of a beta. So I was like, I'd rather be Charlie Harper.
Wait, when you say a child, how old were you when you started watching 2.5 Men?
I don't know, about 7 or 8, or maybe I was 10. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it started in 2000.
It started 2003, I believe.
2003.
And then I watched it maybe a few years later. So I reckon 2005. I was probably like 10, 11. And I had been watching it for maybe 8 years on and off. But then the later seasons weren't as good. So even though I still watched the episodes, I didn't watch them as regularly as I would with the Charlie Sheen episodes.
That's the difference between you and me. Like, I got into this. I watched 2.5 Men, but like, I got into Friends like when I was in my teens, and as I watched that, I thought I definitely wouldn't have been into that kind of stuff when I was a child. And 2.5 Men, I don't think I would have even understood it, so I would have just switched off. So like, it's kind of weird. So that's
He had money, women, a big ass mansion by the beach, everything he ever wanted. What I didn't like about Charlie Harper was that he was a bit selfish, rude, a bit vulgar, gambled too much.
Yeah, but he had his...
Drank way too much, smoked way too much.
Yeah, but he did take in his brother and the nephew.
Yeah, that was one of his good points.
And like, he complained about his brother, but he still loved his brother. It's kind of annoying that the writer and Charlie Sheen kind of had a falling out. If you saw the last episode, it was kind of like a direct dig at Charlie Sheen.
Oh yeah, it was. But the irony was it killed 2.5 Men. They basically brought Charlie... Spoilers. They basically brought Charlie back just to kill him off again, and then they killed off the writer/producer of the show just for fun. I don't understand. It was just stupid. But back to role models.
Okay, you've gone into depth about your, like, basically I told you Icarus's dad in the Hercules cartoon because he's an inventor and he was a dad, and Wayne Selinsky in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show and the movie, and if you've seen Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Oh yeah, the love interest for his son, she was in The Americans. I've never seen that show, but apparently it's really good.
You mean the spies that are Russian that pretend to be Americans?
Oh yeah, but the show is about family. We've gone on a different tangent, but like, the reason I thought he was an inventor and stuff, but he had a family and everything, he was like, stable, so like, well, they were both family men, because Icarus had 2 working parents doing stuff.
Go on. Sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted. Go on.
Yeah, but like, yeah, Icarus had his inventor dad and his mom that died. Forget, maybe she was an abstract artist.
So
or
they
like-
were both scientists with families and big brains and creative streaks. Is
and
that it?
families, like, yeah. I think if my life, I always thought as a child, like, if my life ended up like Wayne Selinsky, mind of shrinking your children and shrinking yourselves and blowing up your baby. I mean, like, aside from that, I think his life was pretty good. He didn't actually blow up his baby, he just made it bigger, but that's what they call it. Honey,
So blew up as in,
Booing.
yeah,
Yeah.
blew up as in just made the baby bigger. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's next? What else should we talk about? Role models, role models, role models. You wanted to talk about Apu.
Yeah.
So
Much ado about nothing, yeah. That's a title for an episode of The Simpsons.
okay.
I think that's the episode where like, oh yeah, because in the beginning of the episode, like there's a single auction for like, and like Lisa and Marge were complaining there's no attractive male in The Simpsons, and then she's like, oh Apu, you're single, and then he got up and said, I'm a businessman, I like making furniture, and then discussing where to put it.
Yeah, I've seen that episode. Basically, that's the one where he's gonna get married, but he doesn't want an arranged marriage. So
No, in the beginning he realizes that well he's been working and all that stuff, and he realized, oh, I'm actually attractive and I can meet loads of women, and oh he gets
and then he gets loads of women.
yeah, and he does. Yeah.
And then his mom comes on and says, "Hello, Apu. I've arranged a woman to marry you." And he's like, "No, I just got my freedom."
He just realized.
And then he just realized he's an eligible bachelor who can get anybody, just left, right, and center.
Yeah, I'm talking about that because I watched a YouTube channel that I've just gone into now. Well, he doesn't make that many videos, well, like these, but hotdiggedydemon or whatever. We'll put the description, and then like if we figure out a thumbnail, we'll put his picture here. God, I hope he doesn't copyright us. Copyright strike us. That'll be the most ironic thing. But he complained about getting copyright strike.
You know they're getting rid of Apu, right?
No, I think that's still under. Has it started in America yet? Is he out? Or?
No, they're saying that they're getting rid of him after this season.
Not Apu, but like I said, like Apu is a hard-working immigrant he has a degree in he has a doctorate in computer science. He came to America. He's a provider and all that stuff to his family. I mean, spoiler, he does cheat on his wife at some point, but he does still.
He cheats on his wife with this attractive blonde woman. Yeah. Basically, he does cheat on her, but he's not a bad guy overall.
Yeah, he tries to commit
So
suicide in the
what?
episode.
Okay, so you're talking about the positive attributes of Apu, the heart, the perseverance, his intelligence, his what's the word, diligence, and the fact that he's a family man who loves his wife for the most part. But yeah, there was a campaign to get rid of Apu because a lot of people felt that he portrayed negative stereotypes of India.
Well, like I saw a Sky News coverage, like they had an Asian girl and Asian guy. Well, they were counterbalancing. They basically said that her argument was that basically that it's not your culture, but like it's kind of weird for us to make fun of a culture that's not ours. And the other guy was like, well, are you saying that people should be restricted to their own culture? I mean, like it's strange because how would you say, like, you're Nigerian, like, are you saying that
I would say that.
Well, you're English, but you're okay, like, okay.
It's a comical portrayal of an Indian person.
Yeah, but let's talk about ourselves, because I'm not Indian, but, like,
I would actually make the argument that regardless of all the other characters of The Simpsons, if you just focus on Apu as opposed to the other stereotypes that were created in The Simpsons, not created but explored in The Simpsons, Apu actually defies the stereotype. He is a good person, he is clever, he does have a PhD, he does run his own business, he does have a large family that he loves very much, he does care about other people, he does respect his neighbors and their traditions. He doesn't have he's never had any problems with anybody. He always takes pity on people like Homer, even when they do stupid things.
And he always plays the straight man, the voice of reason in that situation.
Yes, exactly. Like
He's a successful singer as well.
he sings, he bowls, he does a lot of things. He's a multifaceted character. In fact, you could argue that his character is very fleshed out. There are a lot of layers to him. So to restrict him to just your own or anybody's warped perspective
Well, I would say
of stereotypes is it's a bit detrimental to the character in itself. Like, you can't help being offended at something, but at the same time, you have to understand, Apu may have the casing of a stereotype with the voice and the mannerisms and the look, but as a person, he's just as multi-dimensional, multifaceted, maybe even more so than a lot of the other characters.
I mean, like, I told you about that hot diggity, I forget his name, but yeah. That guy was talking about the Harry Kondabulu documentary, the comedian that basically started this whole campaign. Basically, the guy was in the the documentary. He was interviewing.
You mean the comedian that did the documentary
Yeah,
about
Harry
Apu?
Kondabulu. He was basically interviewing people in the documentary, and they asked all of them, did they know that Apu was not voiced by an Asian, and they were all surprised. And because he's a voice actor, it doesn't really matter. Because a voice actor's job is it's the one job where your appearance means nothing in terms of acting. Like, it could be anywhere. Like, we covered this.
I feel that this is partly because of Apu's influence in American culture. Well, Apu as an extension of The Simpsons and as an individual character, because no one's coming after Tara Strong for voicing different characters of different ethnicities. Like, there's Omi from a cartoon, Shaolin Showdown. There's Omi from Shaolin Showdown. He is one of the many voices that Tara Strong, a Caucasian woman, has done. And even Samurai Jack is voiced by a black guy. Nobody cares about that. But Apu, for some reason, they made a big deal out of it. I feel that it's personally not that big of a deal, but who am I? I'm just one person. Other people could argue it another way. Some people would say, "Oh, it's offensive." Oh, he's. But I just don't find it offensive. Like, there are many times in The Simpsons history that Apu has looked far better than the other men in The Simpsons. Not just the episode that we earlier referenced, when he was basically getting all the girls.
Because he was the best.
He was like the best eligible bachelor. Apart from that one episode, there was also the time when it was Valentine's Day, and Apu was doing all of these things for his wife, like 7 things for 7 days. All these roses, the plane, Elton John, everything. And he basically made every other man in The Simpsons look terrible, absolutely terrible. I mean, how is that a negative stereotype if Apu has been? I mean, yes, we've seen episodes where Apu's been down in the dumps. Apu's maybe felt like he's failed at something, or a vulnerable moments in Apu's history.
Where he lied in song, which Homer hate.
Yeah, that's one example. Him getting his what's it called? His citizenship, all of that, being an illegal immigrant, and then getting the papers, which I found very go on.
I told you about that reviewer, hot diggity whatever. He basically said that episode is the most relevant now than ever, with the whole Trump thing and everything, the immigration, because the episode, like, the Simpsons realized, oh my god, this is our friend and he might be being shipped off, and like, that's the thing. But technically all Americans are, everyone in America is technically an immigrant, minus American Indians, and they made a joke, but like him, but no.
That's true. And also, we have to think about the fact that with that episode where he was getting his papers and becoming a citizen, it was a very inspirational episode, because you've got to think about all these illegal immigrants in America and other places in the world. Like, some people want to get the papers, but for some reason they don't, and they put it off. Maybe they're scared to admit that they're illegal immigrants. Maybe there are other complications. But then when I would say that episode would have been inspiring to immigrants, especially ones that aren't here, that aren't in the country legally, so that it would inspire them to do the right thing and become citizens of the country that they work in or live in.
It's a role model, but like the title of this episode, well, the subject of it is about role model, but like, some people have argued, like, the Simpsons didn't know that Apu wouldn't be the mainstay of like Indian culture in American TV for so long. They want as many Asians aside from him on TV, like even cartoon-like. Like, how many Asians are famous in America? Like, really? Like, it's not.
And Apu is actually much better of a Indian fictional character than so many others. and not just with Indians, Asians in general. Asians get a lot of flack on TV. Like, compare him to Raj from The Big Bang Theory. Who would you rather be, Apu or Raj? Be honest with yourself. I don't care what ethnicity you are. Who would you rather be? Like,
Apu happily married.
Full disclosure, I haven't seen the last 1.5 seasons of The Big Bang Theory.
Neither have I. I haven't seen The Wedding.
I haven't seen anything since season 10. But who would you rather be? Apu, the guy who has a business, large family, beautiful wife, beautiful kids, his own business, doctorate in computer science, once an eligible bachelor that can get any girl he wanted.
Fishing you go.
Yeah. Or Raj, socially awkward, fancied all of his female friends and couldn't get any of them except Penny when they got drunk, and then he messed it up by not getting it up, and then
We have to leave
and then that's staying in the video. And then he had selective nudism for like most of his adult life. He had to, before he fixed that, the only way he could talk to women, any woman that wasn't a relative of his, was to get drunk, and then that's not inspirational.
Now he lives with his dog. Well, last time I checked, he lived with his dog.
Well,
Just his dog.
he might have a girlfriend now. I haven't watched the last few seasons, but Raj always gets into these complicated, awkward relationships with women. Like all the other characters in that series are married, except Stuart, I believe. Last time I checked.
And Apu.
But Apu's married. He's got kids. He's got a business. He's got everything going for him for the most part. Whereas Raj is just the awkward, weird, dorky guy, and he's the last one to get a serious relationship and keep the girl and marry her. The rest, like even Sheldon got a girl, serious relationship, and spoiler alert, they're obviously married now, but I haven't seen that episode yet.
Yeah, I've kind of watched this. Actually, no, I know they got married. That's what I know. Yeah, so.
Who would you rather be? I'd rather be Apu.
Yeah.
They referenced Apu in The Big Bang Theory, when Wolowitz called Raj Apu, something like that, and then he said, "Don't be offended. He's a lovable character in The Simpsons." Yeah, he's lovable, but Raj is lovable too. But if I had a choice, I talk too much. Who would you go for?
Apu. I had a point.
He says it quietly. Say it louder. Apu. Yeah.
Apu and a half a peanut butter long. Yeah, we're talking about role models here, so.
Role models. So there's Apu.
Like, it wasn't the Simpsons' fault that they thought that Apu was technically a role model because he fit a role in the show, and then as the seasons progressed, they gave him more and more layers as a character. They kind of had to. He's not one-dimensional. He's three-dimensional. You know so much about him. You know what I mean? He's not a caricature.
Well, what is a role model? He says 20 minutes into the recording. What is a role model?
We've mentioned it a few times, but like I thought I wanted to. I think we covered Apu in great detail, but like let's talk about like there's probably flaws in role models. Like let's talk about two ideals like American and English that didn't work out. Just like Jimmy Savile, everyone he was a role model for people, and then he turned out to be flawed, incredibly flawed, and he died, and then we find out how bad he was.
You can say that about Bill Cosby and.
But no. The good thing about Bill Cosby
and Rolf Harris and all the others.
I don't care about Rolf Harris. I don't know much about Rolf Harris. And
you mean the painter?
Is Rolf Harris a painter? Is that what he is?
I believe so, yeah.
And Bill Cosby, like I vaguely remember the show, but like I'm happy that he's in prison in his life rather than after he died. Like,
I don't think they'd be able to put him in prison after he dies, but I see what you mean.
Like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, unless he lives to like I don't know how old he is now. So he got 10 years or 12 years. Like,
he's old, man. He's gonna die now. But go on, see what you're
it's
saying.
kind of like people like America. When he got arrested, they basically said that's America's dad. Like so many people grew up with like singing he's like perfect family man and all that stuff. Like and
then he turned out to be
a massive rapist.
Yeah.
We're not going to sugarcoat it. He drugged women, and like people say, no, he drugged women. He admitted to drugging women. What more is there? Like, we might need to cut this back. I don't know. We might offend someone if I say that. Like, this is Bill Cosby.
I think that at this point in our lives, we should stop focusing on not offending people, because we out here being brown people who exist, like we're offending somebody. Anyway, so role models. So let's talk about Jimmy Savile. and how he was the role model turned bad.
Yeah, because he was.
And
Jimmy
not just him, not just Jim will fix it, but Bill Cosby too. Men like them, like the Bill Cosbys, the Jimmy Saviles, Harvey Weinstein.
I don't know if
raping
Harvey
them.
Weinstein was that well known outside of the industry. He's probably just a name we've heard. I don't think he was. Was he particularly famous? He was big, but I don't know if he was.
I hadn't actually heard of him, but I had obviously heard of his films.
I've heard of the Weinstein Foundation though and stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, so it's interesting that all of these former role models, these people that people would respect and work with and wish they were more like, now their reputations have been completely destroyed because people see them now as sex perverts and criminals. Because some people would still defend Bill Cosby, some people would still defend Harvey Weinstein. Not everybody, but there'll always be those hardcore followers that would say, "Oh, forget what they say, I know he didn't do it." That has happened.
Not necessarily, but some people are being like it's not that bad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
I know some people deny it, and there's some people who hear it and be like, it's not that bad.
There are some people,
They're
not
varying
a
degrees
lot.
of it.
There are some people that would deny it altogether and say, "Oh, not him. He wouldn't do that." And there are other people that would say, "Oh, he may have done it in the past, but it was 30 years ago. Who cares? It was 30 years ago." That's what they would say.
It was 10 years ago, and he's president. Get over it. I mean, like that's what some people would say about other individuals.
That's exactly what people would say.
Yeah.
That was this governor that nearly became the senator of one state. I think it was Alabama. But then he didn't. This was a guy that was accused of sexually assaulting a minor, but most of his voters didn't give a damn. They were like, "Oh, it was 20 years ago. Who cares?" And the president of the United States endorsed this man to become senator, and a lot of people were offended by that. But anyway, there were some people who take the recent phenomenon seriously, the Me Too Time's Up phenomenon. There are other people that just don't see it as a big deal. Like there are all these men that are being demonized for things that they did decades ago, and some people don't care that much. I'm not saying we shouldn't care. I'm saying that it's frightening that people don't care just because it happened years ago.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. This Me Too movement, like when I first heard it, I assumed it was about the pay gap, and I thought, oh, it makes sense that women want to make. But like then you're the one that clarified to me that it's about the whole assault thing and all that stuff. I mean, I have nothing against the movement. I just think the title. I mean, like surely like no means no. Wouldn't that be a better title? Why is it called Me Too?
Because
to me, when I thought Me Too, I immediately thought pay gap. A man makes this much for this amount of experience.
Because Me Too is when people would talk about times they've been assaulted or raped, and then other people to go Me Too, and then that's the whole gig. Apart from spreading awareness. Okay, so we've talked about APU being a more positive role model than most people would have thought. Then we've talked about negative role models.
Well, the thing is that like
people who used to be good role models until we found out they were not good people.
Everything's kind of subjective. Like apparently in the 70s and maybe 80s, a person was accused of being handsy. Like that's like it's not like people weren't aware of it. That people like.
Yeah, sexual harassment was only coined in 1979.
Well, yeah, and that was just probably coined, and it probably got worse. Not worse. I mean, like the definition got more broad, if you know what I mean. Like there's been a societal shift, and obviously there's still parts of the world where that hasn't happened yet, and we should probably look into that as well. I mean, not look into that as like as a society. Like,
I mean, this is such a broad topic when you talk about the sexual harassment cases. But
no, I'm talking about role models in the sense that these women that are coming out are becoming heroes, but and I think the men that are men and occasionally women that, I mean, like, that's...
So these women that have come up and admitted to being
victims,
survivors of these attacks or assaults, they're now seen as role models, whereas the men who committed these acts are now seen as villains.
Yeah, but like, I don't mind that, but like, you know that any one of these women, like, they'll be like, oh wait, she was a victim, oh she's such a hero for coming out, and then they'll be like these same women that they get raised on a pedestal, and then they find out, oh, you don't argue about another person on Twitter and all that stuff. They will get brought down as well, because like the thing that we have is a problem where we raise people up and then we bring them down at some point.
I mean, that is the point with celebrities. I mean, celebrities are generally raised to a higher pedestal than normal people.
I mean, I can't think of a famous person out of the Me Too ones. I don't follow that often, but like, there's probably someone really famous that will be brought down because she did something wrong in her life at some point, and like, there will be. You do know that, right? At some point.
Sure.
But like, this whole idea about role models. I mean, like I said, my role models were like fictional and stuff but I not understand that fiction. Like, I have no idea how are the actors or the voice actors in the case of Icarus in the cartoon. Or Wayne Selinsky, I have no idea what the actor did since, but like but that's a character and that's an ideal. So like, I'm not going to like judge the character for what the actor did, if you know what I mean. Like Charlie Harper, like his character, like flawed or whatever, that's just a character. Would you want to be like the real Charlie Sheen?
Not really.
But you can you could separate
Charlie Sheen and Charlie Harper were almost identical, but Charlie Sheen, nothing against him, but
he's flawed.
Well, everybody's flawed. We're flawed, but that's not the point. Like, Charlie Sheen had many different things written about him, said about him, and some of them are true, and I won't go into it. But it's not that I would dislike Charlie Sheen or dislike being Charlie Sheen. It would just be like, I wouldn't like the negative reputation. I'm not gonna act like we're perfect, but no one wants to be seen as a bad boy or whatever the hell he's done. Who cares? But
some people like admire that. Some people like, oh, it's so interesting, it's so fun, like that.
I mean, some people.
Isn't that kind of like the rock star element? Like, people want to be a rock star, that whole like drugs and rock and roll and everything.
Still, I'm joking. Yes, some people do want to be that, but
I mean, some people say YouTube is the new rock and roll in a sense. Not YouTube, like social media, because like people are famous here.
It depends. I mean, some people are doing well with social media, some people aren't. They produce decent content on a regular basis and people keep watching, which means more views, which means more brand deals, more ad revenue, more everything. And some of them come up with books and songs. You got Lele Pons with a new song coming out, other people doing short movies, other people doing Netflix shows like King Batch and Logan Paul. Oh, and YouTube originals. They're doing YouTube originals now.
Yeah, YouTube Premium. Is that it?
No, YouTube Premium is just YouTube without ads. And you've got Logan Paul and brand new YouTube original shows, which is funny because at the beginning of the year he was demonetized, but obviously that didn't last long. But anyway, he's seen as a role model too. I mean, he's a guy that made it big on social media. A lot of kids still want to be like him, and Jake too.
Yeah, I don't, but then again, I'm older than him, so.
If you want to hear more about the Paul brothers, you can check out one of our earlier videos.
When I was ill, you did a video about people chasing celebrity. So you want to go back into that celebrity culture, like you said that?
There is celebrity culture can be harmful to the extent that people might want to imitate the negative qualities of their favorite superstars just so that they can be more like them, because they associate those negative qualities with success because they see people do dumb things, but those people are successful, so they automatically think, hey, if I do these dumb things, maybe I'll be successful too. Things like that. So I feel like in the discussion that we're making, I feel like we haven't spoken enough about the responsibility of being a role model. I mean, I mentioned my mom as being a role model. She was a positive one, whereas Charlie Harper was arguably a negative one.
Was it really something to aspire to? I mean, I'm guessing you wanted to be a version of him that you liked, obviously not a version.
Yeah, the version that had a lot of money and a lot of women. But then again, I was a teenager. Obviously, things change.
I wouldn't say my role model changed. I mean, I haven't seen that show in ages, but like, he's still a good role model. I mean, a family man, successful scientist, family.
But we got to think about how role models affect you. Like,
I had interest in science after that, so I had interest in that. So like, so how did Charlie, aside from the obvious aesthetic stuff, like, was there anything about his character that you liked?
Maybe that he just got what he wanted, really.
With little consequence? He had some consequences.
No, he had some consequences, but he seemed to have a carefree life. But there were episodes where he was going through depression or in vulnerable states or heartbreak, or he was annoyed or very drunk, and there were dark sides to that character that I didn't want to emulate. but at the same time, from the base factor of being a rich guy who made money making jingles and sleeping with beautiful women, a lot of guys admittedly would want to live that sort of lifestyle. Not that it's a long-term thing or sustainable, but maybe it's just comes down to some sort of childish fantasy.
But you say that, like in like one of the later seasons, I not forget, like Charlie asked his brother Alan, like, what kind of women does he go for, and Charlie went on a double date with Alan and two educated women, and Charlie realized he was out of his depth. And then obviously she was a judge, so obviously in the episode he got himself arrested so he could talk to her later on. And he's like, I got myself arrested, can you give me another chance? And she said sure, because that's how life works. Yeah, but the fact is, he realized that he was going for like these women that are attractive, but like they also lose substance. So he thought, Alan might not be as successful as I am in terms of quantity, but he has a quality that I like. I mean, like,
what would make you want to be like Alan?
Well,
this is a very serious question.
Because he gets smarter women, less women, but smarter women. I mean, like.
Yeah, but he also gets treated like a doormat by almost everybody he knows. His brother, his friends, ex-wives, his son, the maid, everybody.
Yeah, but in a way he provides a roof over his head for his family.
Yeah, by sponging off other people.
No, it's not. I'm not saying that the type of women he goes for. Like, there was a point where Charlie. Did you see the episode where Charlie?
I've seen them all. Which one?
When he dates that Chinese judge, Asian judge.
Yeah.
And then he got drunk and she has a little adorable son and so. And he said, "Oh, my nephew's about your age," when he's like clearly 2, and his nephew's like 14 or 15 at the time. Like, he actually saw what Alan had, and like, maybe I should give that a go. I mean, like, I think he went back to his old ways after that, but like, the fact that he was curious about it, I mean, he was curious about that as well. Like, surely, like, being with women all the time, like,
but
you eventually want one, right?
Tying into role models, you have to understand that even somebody like Charlie Harper, he would have his flaws and his good points. This was a man who, despite seeming like he had everything, clearly didn't. Yeah, he got to sleep with women and he had lots of money, but he also lost lots of money, had a gambling problem, alcohol problem, commitment phobia. He was rude and had a drinking problem.
Oh yeah, the commitment phobia, but like I said.
And he was trying to resolve those issues by trying to get into more serious relationships, and then when they failed, he would go back to his old habits.
So he kind of had that as a safety net. It's that kind of admirable, but he could basically go for heartbreak. He go for all that positivity, and then he goes for something serious. It doesn't work out, then he can go back to that for fun, and like it's kind of like a safety net, because his character kind of always knew he always finds something to be happy, long term or short term.
Not happy, more like just content, or maybe distracted. He was always distracted. I think like the both major characters in that show had childhood trauma and insecurities that they wanted to not think about, so they distract themselves with different things.
Charlie, their mom was weird.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Charlie would distract himself with drinking and sleeping with women and making money, and Alan would distract himself with work or trying to find ways to save money or look after his son.
And like in an episode where Alan was taking drug trials because he thought Charlie wasn't going to pay enough bills, so he started doing experiment stuff because the jingle business had crumbled. And at the end of the episode, oh wait, look, another offer just came in, and then Alan just collapsed because he's been doing drugs all episode just to make money. You could say there was like Alan was always like he was accident prone, and he's the one that worries about everything.
Charlie worried about almost nothing.
And then everything just worked out because he was like, no, don't worry, it'll work out. And I said, no, you can't live like this. And then he's the one that got hurt and stuff.
That carefree attitude.
And it kind of everything fell.
But in reality, it's not a sustainable way to live. You have to worry about a few things. Make sure that you're on top of your bills, your finances, your business. So in a way, Charlie Harper was just like an average man's childish fantasy. But it's not a sustainable role model to aspire to be like.
Well, it's not everyone's role model. He wasn't my role model. He was your role model. I mean, like.
Yeah, the character used to be.
Okay, so did you ever watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids at any point?
The film, not the show, not the TV
Did
show.
you ever think Wayne Selinsky, the main guy, was anything admirable about him? Like, he's a smart guy.
I mean, he seems cool, but I only watched it once or twice. But to wrap up this episode, if you think about the responsibility of role models, and
What about
do-
individual responsibility? Like, we shouldn't, I mean, like, we have role models, like, people have role models, like, what should they stick to and stuff? Because everyone's flawed, so, like, should we do, I mean, like, the Jimmy Savile Cosby, some people defend that.
I feel like we need to end on the point where role models, whether someone would argue that they are positive role models or negative role models, you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Like, sometimes it's not good to meet your heroes because they may not be as great as you thought they were. Let's say that imagine you had this hero and you thought he was amazing or she was amazing, and then it turned out that this person was not so great, and then it kind of ruins your world perspective depending on how much of an influence this role model had on your life. I mean, similar to if somebody was religious and then they somehow started believing that there was no God after all. I mean, that could definitely affect somebody's life. Like,
Yeah.
God could be seen as a role model to a lot of people, or somebody's own God.
I think, well, the Trump and to me that's a different thing. Like, God is more of an ideology. Like, wow, Trump is an idealized version of someone. Like, you think, oh, he's president, he's amazing, and I want to be like him. But when you find out he's flawed, he's still a person. When it's God, it's like an abstract idea that something's like, and then you think maybe things won't work out. But I wouldn't say that's a role model idea, but it's interesting. Like, someone like I was kind of religious when I was small. I mean, when I was younger, and then I gradually. But my level, I mean, I just became less religious over time. Isn't that generally how people become atheists or agnostic? And well, in my case, like the faith just gradually fades. Like, in what case is faith like it's just instant where you go from religious, hyper religious, being really religious to like not religious, like.
I think again it comes down to role models. If you're brought up into a religious family and your parents, your first role models are highly religious, you're more likely to be highly religious.
Yeah, but like surely if you like in that situation, like if you're religious and then you become non-religious, it fades gradually rather than like in which ways who go through that immediate change so dramatically? Like I don't think it's an instant.
I feel
I don't think to anyone that goes from being a religious to atheist or whatever. I don't think it's instantaneous. Like even people who convert religion, they're like, "Oh, this stuff it's a gradual change. It's not."
I'm not saying it's instantaneous. I mean, there are many reasons why someone may go from religious to non-religious. Maybe they had a traumatic event happen to them. Maybe they lost a loved one, or they lost a lot of money, or something really traumatic that happens to them. And then they gradually believe, oh, maybe there is no God. Maybe it was all a lie. I mean, how could there be a God and these terrible things happen to people? Maybe a religious person would go into a university or a school or a job where there were more atheists than non-atheists, and they'd start mixing with those people, listening to them, hearing them talk, watching them live out their own lifestyles, and think, okay, maybe these people don't believe in God. I want to see why. And then the atheist friends would tell them all about their views on the world, and then it starts to seep in gradually into the religious person's mind until they no longer believe in God, or at least think that God could exist, but they might go from religious to agnostic and then eventually atheist.
Yeah, it's a broad spectrum, but in that same scenario, like some people could be like, oh, I've never really, because some people are raised without a religious background, and they'd be like, I've never really thought about it. Maybe they might convert to Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, whatever. Well, not convert, but like they research and like, oh, I like this, and it's like, some people like it and some people dislike it. Like it's as much as people go from religion to non-religion, some people go from non-religion to religion. It happens like that.
And again,
it's a sense of community as well.
Yeah, that is. Community is an influential factor, social influence.
In your scenario, like a person who's religious goes to university where predominantly they're not religious, there's community, so you gradually fit your community. And the other way, like you're atheist, but you're going to a religious community, and your perception changes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Community has a big effect.
I mean, apart from role models, community is another influence, another
Well,
strong influence in somebody's life.
When you say role model, we're not talking about sole role model. I mean, like, community can be your role model. Like, I want to be like the best in my community and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, be entering into a new community, you would other people's traits and idiosyncrasies would rub off on you. You'd want to be more like them, or you inadvertently become more like them over time.
But I think everyone needs to remember that everything, even ideas, are flawed. So, like, maybe should we end up like people should not believe in hype of certain people, or like what should people avoid?
People can believe whatever they want as long as they know that role models are not perfect, and communities aren't perfect either. It's important to have role models because it's important to have people to aspire to be like, whether it's one person or a whole community. However, it's also important to be a free-thinking individual with your own thoughts and ideas so that you don't just become a replica or a copy of somebody else. And on that note, I think we're done for this evening, at least for this week. Check out our social media. Description will be, the links will be in the description box.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to do another episode next week. We had a bit of a hiatus, but we're back now.
Yeah.
It's goodbye from Ron.
And it's goodbye from Hugh.
See you guys later.
Ciao.